Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Putt.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here. Today is the 2nd of December. We're in the last month of the year. Things have moved along quite well. So let's check out and see what we're dealing with today. All right, December 2nd, our moon sign is in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. Our sun sign is in Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. So the energies we're dealing with today are fire and earth. Fire and earth. Fire is ideas. Earth is the physical world, the physical area that we're living in. So two cards in the tarot, the two pictures that represent this. This would be our sun sign. This is our sun sign for the course of this cycle, this season. It is Sagittarius. It is represented by the angel of temperance. This is all about our higher self. Okay, the angel's our higher self. We reach to that higher aspect of ourself to come to understand our connection with the divine. The moon sign, which changes every 2 days, which means that every 2.5 days, our mind, our unconscious mind, is continuing to move. Okay, the energies of the unconscious mind continuously move. We notice that we always are like wanting and moment to moment to moment we have different desires or things that we're looking for or we're wanting to do or so on and so forth. It's because our subconscious mind is continuing to move. It moves from the fire, the water, the air, the earth. The conscious mind stays stable for a whole month, but every 2.5 days that unconscious mind keeps going. Right now we're in Capricorn. Capricorn is represented by the card of the devil. The reason this is because this card represents Earth. Capricorn represents Earth. Now, the Earth in itself has a lot of different ways we could look at it. One, it's our home. Second, it's the physical reality. Now, in the physical reality, rules and the ways in which things move and operate are different than in the non-physical reality. This represents the physical reality, and the two people chained to the box represent what happens when somebody gets so caught up in the physical reality that they forget that there is a reality outside of that. They forget about the fire, the water, and the air that make up the physical. And therefore they get trapped because they don't realize there's any way out of their situation. And when we get into a place where we become trapped and we think there's no way out, it can be very frustrating, confusing. And so therefore we have to look past the illusion. The Hebrew letter on this card, ayin, means eye. It's all about looking through the illusion, looking past the illusion that this is all something that is our trap. It's not a trap. We are the ones who are chaining ourselves to the block of ignorance by not understanding what's going on, by believing that this is all that there is. When we reach to something more, suddenly our perspective changes because we realize that there's so much more available to us. We're looking at some of the aspects today, 10:27 a.m., Pluto, deep transformation with the sun sign Sagittarius. So Sagittarius again delving into the truthfulness, our moon sign, Capricorn, so the earthiness, moving past the earth reality. A square with Jupiter. Jupiter wants to expand things. And then we have Capricorn and Mercury. Mercury the communicator in Capricorn, 3:18 p.m. Mercury enters that, so communication enters into our physical reality. A message, Mercury's the messenger. 7:36 p.m. tonight, the wounded part of ourselves that needs healing is now in a good position with the Earth sign here of Capricorn, so perhaps the opportunity for us to look at ways in which to heal our physical body. And then finally Neptune, right here, Uranus wants us to understand there's some unexpected changes and things that occur within our physical reality. These are lessons we need to deal with. Okay? Life changes, life moves on. We need to understand that we need to roll with the way that life is moving. If we become stagnant, if we get stuck in the earth, then we're missing the fire, the water, and the air. Fire is ideas, water is emotions, air are words and actions. And then finally we have the physical world. And when we put them all together, we understand that not only is there fire, water, air, and earth, but we have this element of spirit which flows through all things. And so we need to really stay attuned to this aspect of ourselves that exists beyond this physical reality, because the physical reality is simply that. It's only one part of the whole. The moon is 9.1% of the way. It's a waxing moon, which tells us it's making its way up towards the full moon. We just had the new moon on the 29th. It was a micro moon, and now we're going to a super moon on the 13th of December. So we're moving towards that full moon there. If we look over at the Jewish calendar, today is Tu Kislev. We began a new month yesterday, the month of Kislev. It's in the year 5777. And finally, looking up at space weather, solar wind 342.9 kilometers per second. Planetary K index is quiet at a 1 over the next 24 hours. Looks like it's going to stay that way. Corona hole at the top of the sun, not really like it was when it was so open before. Here we have an M-class flare possibility. Look like 20% chance we're going to have one of those. X-class 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity in the mid-latitudes, it's hanging stable at 10%. In the high latitudes, it's also being stable as well, 20%, 15%. So there you have it. That is our cosmic weather today. So we're dealing with a sun sign that is fire. So fire is ideas. The ideas that we're dealing with are ideas of truthfulness, of connection with the higher self. It's the Sagittarian ideals. But the moon sign for this particular day, before we move into the next one, at the present moment wants us to look at the physical reality and find a way to look past that. And as we look past that, look what we got. We've got the angel and we got the devil today. Okay, as we're able to look past the illusions of this with the truthfulness, we are able to raise ourselves up to a higher place of understanding. And that's really, my friends, what it is all about. Okay, that's our cosmic weather. UFO news is up next. Let's do it.
This is the UFO news. Joshua.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today, I've got 4 good stories. Story number 1 comes to us from Turkey. It's appropriate since we just had Thanksgiving, right? Hundreds of people see a fleet of UFOs in multiple cities across Turkey. Okay, a group of UFOs observed in the sky above Turkey, and hashtag UFO attack Turkey trended on Twitter as skywatchers posted strange videos on the social media platform. The fleet of UFOs composed of 4 or 5 lights was seen over households across the country. A video of the recent event was posted on YouTube, channel Secure Team 10. It has been viewed thousands of times in less than 24 hours. The video channel said that the fleet of unidentified lights was spotted in several cities over the major county of Turkey, causing many people to panic. At one point, November 27th, the channel claimed the hashtag became the #1 trending topic in the world. Twitter users have left equally baffled by the images. One commented that it was very compelling stuff as many phones were being posted. Another one wrote, UFO invasion happening in Turkey as unidentified flying objects were witnessed in many cities of the country. Other users experienced fear and hoped that the entire thing was a joke. No official confirmation yet on the strange lights, but there was suggestion that they could be drones. Okay, the video itself's 11 minutes. I'm going to leave that for you to check that out, but that's what's going on. Here's the concern, my friends. Look, we got a lot of brain dead people in the world, and so this is what they're going to start seeing when they see these. UFO invasion is happening, they're going to start writing in a panicked manner. Even though it might not be an invasion, even though all they're doing is seeing something in the sky. You got brain dead individuals who are going to complain and say that they're seeing things and things are other than what they're thinking because they throw their own opinions into it, which really sometimes means nothing more than that. Okay, we have a UFO that emerged from a portal over Hollywood Hills. UFO investigators are examining two pictures that show a strange beam of light from the sky and an unidentified flying object. And photos were taken simultaneously over the Hollywood Hills in California. These are objects right over here. The unnamed photographer said he did not see anything bizarre at the time of the snapping of the two pictures, but he spotted anomalies when reviewing the images later. In a report to MUFON, the witness said he took some photos and noticed something strange in them. Pictures were taken a day before the witness sent them to the organization dedicated to the investigation of alien and UFO phenomena. The first image shows a portal-like beam of light which appears to distort the trees as it passes above them. A small dark UFO can be seen to the right of the beam. The second picture apparently shows a slightly different part of the hills, and seemingly in a closer zoom, it shows a translucent jelly-like UFO, somewhat that has 3 dots inside. Some UFO believers suggest that it could be a living entity that travels through portals without needing spacecraft. However, there's no scientific explanation to support the conspiracy theory. Meanwhile, skeptics would say that the strange lit anomaly on pictures, often due to the result of sunlight tracing refracting inside the camera lens, points to the sun. Okay. Now, here is a stupid use of the word conspiracy theory. So some UFO believers suggest that it could be a living entity. However, there's no explanation to support this conspiracy theory. Okay, a conspiracy theory is when 2 or more people get together to conspire to do something. Okay, if somebody sees something in the sky, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's an observation that then becomes reported. Okay, seeing something into the sky is not a conspiracy theory. It's just, you know, we have a part of society that seems to want to make us stupid by throwing out words and phrases and misusing them, and then we're just supposed to go along with it willy-nilly like we're stupid as well. But that's not the case. There's too many smart people here on Earth. Here we have a story that goes back to 2003. The first Chinese astronaut said to have heard mysterious knocking sounds on his spacecraft. I believe they may have been an intelligent biological entity trying to establish contact with him. Sadly, he didn't make a similar knocking noise to make this alien contact, but instead was both puzzled and worried at what it could be. But he knew, as you hear in your own words below, he knew. Another astronaut, John Glenn, was interviewed, and I have it in an odd 1960s UFO magazine, but he saw fireflies, white glowing tiny insect-sized objects swarming about the module while in orbit. He banged on the metal sides and sent the little buggers up swarming around the windows. Here is a video below about that. Okay, here we go. This is the Chinese astronaut. Says, imagine you're alone in a tiny spacecraft. Your first time up, they're all alone in endless space. Then suddenly, a knocking sound. That's what happened to Yang Lui, Chinese first man in space on his maiden flight in 2003. In a recent interview, he has now recalled hearing someone knocking on the body of the spaceship just as the knocking on an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. Neither came from outside nor inside the spacecraft. Naturally, he got a bit nervous and had to peek out the porthole, but failed to spot any explanation for the eerie knock. He's not been able to figure out what it was, either up in space nor after returning to Earth. He said that he even tried, but failed, to recreate the sound so that experts could help him identify it. Unsurprisingly, the story about unexplained mystery sounds in space has garnered quite a bit of attention. What or who was knocking on Mr. Yang's spacecraft as he was all alone miles from the safety of Earth? Don't know. All right, here's the video, John Glenn, so you can check that out. And finally, one last piece here. This takes us to Roswell. And this supposed new information claims dead aliens were on the Roswell UFO. Okay, so I'm guessing that, though the title says this, I'm guessing the aliens on the UFO weren't dead, but they're saying that the aliens that we discovered that were dead had been on the UFO. Roswell UFO breakthrough. Welder at crash site saw 2 dead aliens in the flying saucer. Exclusive, a pair of dead aliens were found in the wreckage of a crashed flying saucer by the U.S. military at Roswell in 1947. It was sensationally claimed yesterday. The Mutual UFO Network has received a report from a retired engineer who claims to have interviewed a welder who cut open the flying saucer that reportedly crashed into the New Mexico desert just outside Roswell more than 69 years ago. In a detailed report, the engineer, who had not been named, claimed to have carried out the interview in 1970, 23 years after the legendary event. Roswell had been at the heart of the UFO scene since the military announced in a press release that it had found the remains of a crashed flying saucer at the nearby desert in July 1947. But the following day, it retracted the statement, saying it was in fact a damaged U.S. Air Force air balloon. Witnesses later came forward and said that there had been alien bodies within the crashed craft, which, along with the wreckage, they were taken to the mysterious top-secret Area 51 military base. In the shock report to MUFON, the former engineer first explained why the interview came about. He said, "I joined the staff and then the new campus of the University of California at Santa Cruz. There were several sightings of UFOs in the mountains behind the campus in '69 and reported to the university. I was asked to interview 3 people and file a report. I could find no credibility or evidence to these events, but because it was a small campus and everybody in the science knew what was going on, I got the unwanted reputation of someone who knew about UFOs." The engineers claimed that this led him to be introduced to the welder, who had reportedly been employed by the U.S. Air Force at the Roswell base at the time of the crash. He said the individual he interviewed was a welder by trade, and after the war was employed at the Roswell Air Base, working jigs and fixtures for servicing aircraft. He said the welder revealed how he was told to load a cutting torch for the trip to the desert when they arrived at the crash site. The engineer said in the report that he said that they had a flatbed truck loaded with wreckage, and there were soldiers in their hands and knees picking up every piece of wreckage and putting it in cloth bags. He said they drove a little further from the wreckage and came upon the second group of people standing around an intact UFO. He said the brush was knocked down, indicating the craft had skidded across the ground and came to rest into a natural berm with the backside slightly off the ground. He described the craft as being about 25 to 26 feet in diameter, with a large dome on top. He said the craft was the color of weak tea and a burnished finish. He said there were no signs of weld marks, seams, or rivets, and that all the edges had either an inside or outside radius. There was no visible windows or opening. The welder described being able to cut an opening into the dome big enough for a man to crawl through. The report said he began cutting a hole from the base of the dome. It said it was tough alloy and slow cutting, but the material was surprisingly thin. He tried bending the metal out of the way and was cutting the metal would spring back to its shape without creasing. The mirrors separate claims made during an interview earlier this month when a woman alleged to have handled material which came to the flying saucer, which could not be cut or burnt, recovered the shape if crumbled. The report went on. He finished his cut, set the metal blade aside, looking into the cockpit, and then he claimed before he was ordered off the craft. Said it was difficult to see very far into the craft because of the glare from the portable lights, and the cockpit was full of smoke from the cutting torch. Said he saw 2 beings who appeared to be dead. Said the cockpit had a strong smell of ammonia. Said the beings were about 4 feet tall, but they were doubled up, so it was hard to say. They were wearing what he said were skin-tight purple flight suits that reminded him of sequins. He described the heads as what we now refer to as the gray. Said there were no visible instruments he could see. The welder allegedly revealed that he was warned to keep silent after returning to the base. The engineer's report read he said it was dark when they had arrived and was escorted by armed guards into a building for a debriefing. So there you go. So my question in this would be, how did he cut through that with a torch? Because we've been told over the years that they've done all sorts of examinations on pieces of metal and they haven't been able to burn it, they haven't been able to destroy it or anything of that nature. So again, how did this gentleman cut through the material which we were told through years of research is unable to be cut, burned, or anything of that nature? Again, another good question, part of the mystery of Roswell, the gift that keeps on giving. And there you go, that's our UFO news for today. Stay tuned, I'll be back, and we're going to get into some talk about the electoral process. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to you need to know. Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, what they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
All right, let's continue on. Continuing on. So, we have been immersed in this electoral process, the election process, for the last year, more than a year now, and it's been quite exhausting. Quite exhausting for many different reasons. We saw lies, lies, and more lies. But then we all saw it come to a head with the election results. And according to the election results, Donald Trump won this election by an overwhelming margin. Now, you're going to hear different stories, and you have heard different stories that the media is telling, depending on which station you're putting on, about the actual results. And you have many claiming that Hillary won this election, though they don't have the proof of it, but they're claiming that she won the election because of the popular vote. However, we all know that she didn't win the electoral vote. And then, of course, we've got Jill Stein out there who is doing a voter recount. And then we have another gentleman, Rocky De La Hoya was his name, I believe. And he is, I didn't even realize this, he ran for president. And in Nevada he got votes, so he is looking to do a recount in Nevada. So it's very bizarre what's going on. I don't know what you think about Jill Stein, but I certainly have found that listening to her, she sounds like, she just sounds like a very confused individual. She sounds like somebody I would never ever want to support, quite frankly, to remove any political correctnesses. She sounds like a blathering idiot out there, spouting her nonsense, and she makes no sense whatsoever. If you go to her Twitter feeds, if you go to her Facebook page, you see that her very own followers are turning against her, talking about how they wish they had never had supported her and how disappointed they are in her actions, because she's really shown her true colors. Many people are asking, why is Jill Stein doing this? Doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason. Her excuses for why she's doing this seem to be very thin. Keep saying this is about voter integrity, but it doesn't make sense the way she's going about it. My question is she have some ulterior motive in mind? Is this her way to show the Democratic Party that she's someone that could be trusted, so that next election cycle we're going to hear about Jill Stein being a Democrat? Just something to consider. Don't know if there's any reality that or not, but I've been thinking a lot about what's going on and why this is happening. So let's take a look at this process of how the election process here works in the United States. Now, we have a system in this United States called the Electoral College system. We have a country that has 307 million people, and we have individuals who say that our votes should be determined by the popular vote, what the majority of the people want. Now, that's one way to count a vote, to count the popular vote. The only problem with that is that our United States is made up of 50 states. Some states are larger, some states are smaller. Some states have larger populations by an overwhelming amount, and other states have very small populations. So Rhode Island has a small population, but California is extremely large. New York is also extremely large population. So if we were to go with the popular vote, then the way it would work out is each and every election would be determined by the areas of the country that had the largest populations. California, New York, Florida, maybe Texas. That would be it. The rest of the country would not have a say in what went on if we went simply by the popular vote. And there would be a different way the process would happen if people were out there wanting to get the popular vote. You wouldn't see candidates out in swing states because swing states wouldn't be the same as they are now. You would see states and candidates out in states where the biggest populations are trying to get those people to come and vote for them. But that's not the way the process works. You see, we hear the liberals and we hear a lot of people talking about the idea of equality. So let's look at the idea of equality. If we're going to apply equality to our election process, then we have to say each of the 50 states is equal. Each of the 50 states is equal to every other state. So that means Rhode Island, as one of the 50 states, has an opportunity to have the equal representation in what they say as a state like California. Now, in order to have this equal say, a system had to be put in place, a system of representation, where you have a population of the state determines the amount of electors that you will have available to you. And when election time comes, you have 50 states who are each going to have an opportunity to choose one of the two candidates, or however many candidates. So each state can choose one. At the end of the process, every one of the 50 states has made a choice of one candidate or another, and then you find out who the winner of that was. Donald Trump won 30 or perhaps 31 of the states. Hillary Clinton only won 19 or 20. Now, by my counting, and I didn't take Common Core math, so maybe my counting's off, but by my counting and understanding, 30 is bigger than 20 by a factor of 10 points. Therefore, the person who had 30, Donald Trump, would have a higher score than the person who had 20. But then again, liberals have a different system of counting that may not see it that way. So there's the first thing. The second thing is, when we look at the overall amount of counties in the United States of America, well, Donald Trump won an overwhelming amount of those counties. So let's take a look at some of that so we understand. Because in a state like California, or a state like New York, you have millions and millions of people. In California, we have a lot of people that are illegals. They will outright tell you when you walk down the street they're illegal. They will go and they will vote and they will do what they can to cheat the system if the possibility exists. They've already made the point of being illegal. They've already chosen not to go through the system, so they're already in the mindset to undermine the system. And when they're encouraged and pushed a little bit, then they just go right along with the program. So let's take a look at this here, shall we? County. In the United States, a county is a political or a geographic subdivision of a state, usually assigned some level of government authority. The term county is used in 48 of the 50 states. The exceptions are Louisiana and Alaska, where the functionality equivalent subdivisions are called respectively parishes and boroughs. Numerous consolidated city counties exist throughout the United States in which a geographic area is under one united jurisdiction. The U.S. federal government uses the term county equivalent to describe the non-county administrative or statistical areas that are compared to counties. Louisiana parishes, the organized boroughs of Alaska, the District of Columbia, and the independent cities of the states of Virginia, Maryland, Missouri, and Nevada are equivalent to counties for administrative purposes. Alaska's unorganized borough is divided into 11 census areas that are statistically equivalent to counties. As of 2013, the United States has 3,007 counties and 137 county equivalents for a total of 3,144 counties and county equivalents. Okay? So remember that number, 3,144. These are how many counties. So if we're going to look at the election process and we're going to understand it, we need to look by county to see who won the various counties, because there's a race that takes place in many different levels. And one level is the county level, and then it's the state level, and then it's the much larger level. So neither one of these cases are we looking at a popular vote being the deciding factor, except on the county level, because on the county level people go out and the popular vote will determine what electors that state will choose, if you're going to choose a Democrat or Republican or even an independent. Okay, so we have 3,144 counties, remember that. Okay, now here is a list of counties. These are all Wikipedia entries, United States counties and county equivalents. This is a complete list of the 3,142 counties and county equivalents of the United States of America as of July 1st, 2013. Okay, you can go through here and you got all the various counties. You can count them, look at them yourself, see what they are. You can find your county in here. Okay, so lots of counties. One says 3142, other says 3141, 3143. You know, it's in that ballpark. Okay, here's where it's important. If we're going to be fair in an election process, if we want everybody to be represented, so it's not just the people in the largest cities that are determining what's going to happen for the whole country, then we have to put a system in place that finds a way to organize everything so all 50 states are equal. That's what the electoral process is about. So each of the states has its say. That means the state of California will have a say based on the population that is reflected in the amount of electors that they have. 55 electors to California. It's the most of all of the states because they have the biggest population. However, we want that state to have an equal representation as Rhode Island or one of the smaller states. And so we have to use a process other than the popular vote. Common sense should just dictate that. Okay, but we're being led to believe over the years that these two things are in conflict and how we need to use the popular vote. Of course, people are crying that they want the popular vote now because they are able to justify that there were more people that voted. But we know a lot of these people were illegals. We know a lot of the people that voted were dead. And we know a lot of people that voted were felons, that they were all out there voting for the Democratic side of things. So we know that there is cheating taking place. Here's a article. It says, here's what the U.S. electoral map looks like adjusted for population. New 2016 election data released this week shows where Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton and President-elect Donald Trump won and lost. After each of the last 4 presidential elections, University of Michigan physicist Mark Newman produced a series of maps showing the results while rescaling states and counties by population. The results are fascinating and shows a county largely split between deep blue cities and scarlet and red countryside. Here's Newman's map showing the results of the 2016 election. Okay, this is the basic electoral college map with the states that Clinton won in the blue, Trump's in red. Okay. Now, the U.S. population is not evenly distributed among the states. This map distorts the size of the states to reflect their varying populations. Okay, notice the difference here. You have the red states have become smaller because that's how they are in the overall process. And okay, so the map looks a bit different when you start realizing the population differences. Now, populations alone don't win presidential elections. The electoral votes do. This map size states based on the number of electoral votes. It's similar to population-weighted map, but some smaller states like Wyoming and Vermont are somewhat bigger, while more populous states like California and Texas are a bit smaller. Okay. And then states by themselves are not monolithically blue or red. Here's the projected winner in each of the counties of the United States. First glance, there are a handful of blue islands, mostly concentrated along the coast, surrounded by a sea of red. Okay, so the red are all the counties that Trump won. The blue, these are the counties where Clinton won. But many of these blue counties contain dense populations, dense cities. Resizing counties by population, it becomes a little clearer why Clinton is likely to narrowly win the popular vote, but lose the Electoral College. Counties themselves aren't uniformly blue or red. Looking at a color gradient using varying shades of purple, we can see that most counties had a tight split between Republican and Democratic voters, although a few islands of deep red and blue still remain. Okay, so the point being that the process cannot be a process where we just look at the popular vote, because the popular vote doesn't tell us what the overall attitude of the country is. Because you have a large population in California and New York, and those populations would then determine what's going to go on in the country every time that there is an election. And since we have a country filled with people that live in places other than California and New York, they would prefer that they had an equal say in what was going on, so their lives didn't have to be dictated by those out on the coasts. Makes sense to me, should make sense to anybody that's out there. The problem is we're in the end of an election cycle and emotions are high and people want their team to win, so they're willing to overlook all of the different options that are available and all the things that would make sense if they weren't in an election cycle. So there's the problem we're having right now, that this too many emotions. Now, here we have an article. The headline's a little bit off here. It says counties won. Hillary won 57 counties. Trump won 3,084 out of 3,141 is what it lists here. Are you growing tired of liberals crying over the so-called popular vote as if Hillary Clinton is some beloved, disenfranchised leader? Or there's some rules to the contest, and Trump won fair and square. The rest is just noise and sore loser whining. If she wants, Hillary can go to the governor of California or be president of Saudi Arabia. Aside from her popularity in the ultra-liberal strongholds, California and New York, the final election breakdown of the numbers shows what an ass-kicking Hillary Clinton received from the American people. Alan West said the keening and caterwauling we've been treated to by the left since Hillary Clinton's defeat has been monumental. Most entertaining has been the snowflake retreat to the safe spaces with puppies and coloring books to assuage their anguish. Less entertaining were the violent protests, which were paid for when they erupted, and putting aside Jill Stein's equistic effort to force a recount, the left has been loudest with its demands to dismantle the Electoral College. After all, it's unfair. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, so she should win, right? Wrong. Our founders, in their infinite wisdom, created the Electoral College to ensure the states were fairly represented. Why should one or two densely populated areas speak for the whole nation? The following list of statistics has been making the rounds of the internet and should finally put an end to the argument as why the Electoral College makes sense. Share this with as many whiners as you can. There are 3,141 counties in the United States. Trump won 3,084 of them. Clinton won 57. Okay, let that sink in for a minute. Hillary Clinton won only 57 counties. Donald Trump won 3,084. That's 6 times more. 7, 8, it's a whole lot more. 60 times more, excuse me. So, got a problem here, my friends. We have people not understanding the process. People saying Hillary won, yet when you break things down by counties, she only won 57 counties. He won 3,084. Who do you think the winner is, if we look at it by counties? But the liberals, the Democrats, they want to say, oh no, we're going to go by the state. We're going to overall the state. Even though more counties in the state, there's actually one more tally for Clinton, so the state goes to her and, you know, popular vote. It's just all crazy. Let's break it down a little further. I said there are 62 counties in New York State. Hillary won 46 of them. So Hillary won 57 counties. 46 of those counties were in one particular state. So 46 of the 57 counties were in one state. Clinton won the popular vote by approximately 1.5 million votes. In the 5 counties that encompass New York City, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Richmond, Queens, Clinton received well over 2 million more votes than Trump. Clinton won only 4 of these counties. Trump won Richmond. Therefore, these 5 counties alone account for more Clinton winning the popular vote of the entire country. These 5 counties comprise 319 square miles, but the United States is comprised of 3,797,000 square miles. When you have a country that encompasses almost 4 million square miles of territory, it would be ludicrous to even suggest that the vote of those who inhabit a mere 319 square miles should dictate the outcome of a national election. Large, densely populated Democratic cities, New York, Chicago, LA, don't and shouldn't speak for the rest of the country. Okay, so when you look at this breakdown, it helps you to understand, sure, we could say that the overall popular vote, she got more votes. She had more illegals vote for her. She had more dead people vote for her. She had more felons vote for her. But even though there were more people that voted for her, they were primarily from the same locations. And overall, she didn't get the majority of the votes because 3,084 counties voted and were voted for Trump. 57 is all she got. 57. 46 of them in one particular state. Something to think about, my friends. So she won one state, New York. So that means there were 11 other counties out there that she won. 11 others. Well, she won LA County, and there's another big population center of millions and millions of people. And between these large centers, this is where she's getting these. But she didn't win the Electoral College. She didn't win the system that is in place to make sure that every one of these states is treated equally. And don't we want equality? Isn't that what the liberals are always screaming for? Equality, equality, equality. Everything needs to be equal. Well, then you need to understand the equality that needs to be put in place with this process. Each state needs to be equal to every other state. That is why this Electoral College process works. So, something to consider. Read this through, pass this on to friends so they understand what is going on. Last night, I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, but yesterday was Trump's first rally that he gave. That was an official thank you rally. He did it in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm going to make the link available on today's playlist so you can go check it out for yourself to see what that was about. It was really good talk. He came out and spoke about all the successes that they've had, plans that he has for the future, and so on and so forth. So I would highly recommend you going to check that out. Now, I'm going to switch gears here because energy is something we talk about every single show. It's all about energy, understanding the energy around us, the energy we're working with and dealing with. We've got a lot of negativity being thrown out in the world right now. Tons of negativity. Tons of people preying on others. So this article, fits right in. Psychic vampires and the use of etheric energy. It says vibrating energy is what makes up the existence of everything on life and is commonly referred to as waves of energy flowing through the universe. Everyone gives out a certain vibrational frequencies, which is what attracts the many events that occur in your day-to-day life. Psychic vampires have learned to give out and control these frequencies, which allow them to remain a form that they are in. Energy comes in many different colors and forms, and every emotion that is created gives out a specific type of energy that differentiates itself from other types of energy created. So let's talk about energy that is created by positive actions. For instance, creating a positive emotion in someone by doing something nice for the person is a way to get positive energy forming. When you create a positive emotion in someone, you are allowing the person you are creating that emotion with to release positive energy, which can come in the colors of yellows, pinks, oranges, purples, greens, etc. It varies with the person and positive emotions being felt. This is the kind of energy you want to create. And while it does take longer and more work to create this kind of energy, the results in the long run are much more rewarding and you will feel better physically. When feeding off the positive energy created, you will often feel the emotions of that person you are feeding off of. Same goes if you are feeding off the energy provided by things in nature, like trees, for instance. If you take the energy from the trees, give back energy to it. When you create positive energy, it's almost like you're feeding off each other at that point because you are both exuding a positive field of energy, and in turn, you are not creating a negative energy field. When you have this kind of energy, you naturally attract it towards yourself without even trying most of the time. It also makes you feel good physically, and in the sense that you can think clearer and less prone to becoming ill. You feel good about yourself. You make giving and taking energy 10 times easier than it would if you were to choose to go take a route of creating negative energy in others or your environment. Another form of creating energy in order to absorb or feed off of it is the one mentioned above, the creation of negative energy. The way of creating energy through negative actions or emotions directed at others can be one of the fastest and easiest ways to create and feed off of energy, but is also dangerous to you and dangerous to those you are feeding off of. All one has to do is to create a negative energy form of energy is start talking to someone in a negative way, such as being condescending or talking to someone like they are a 5-year-old. When you do that, it creates frustration and even angers in others. They can take their energy immediately and produce larger results by continuing to push that person's button. Okay, so let me zip down here. It says, understanding the energy field and what affects it and the results you will receive by feeding off certain energies is important in knowing how to live and survive in a relatively negative energy-free lifestyle for any vampire, intentional or unintentional. So there's a lot more to this article. I want you to go through and read this. The point certainly being that in order for us to be able to move through life in a successful way, we need to be able to deal with the energies that are in our lives each and every day. And sometimes there's positive, sometimes there's negative. Sometimes there's those that try to feed off of us, sometimes not so much. All right, here's another article. It says how negative energy affects your life and how to clear it. Very important, okay? We want to be able to clear the energy that affects us, because if we can't do that, then there's a problem. You know that like attracts like, right? So here's the deal. Positive people are drawn to positive energy. Negative people are drawn to negative energy. We tend to perceive something negative energy as other people have. Sure, sometimes we feel negative as in go away or leave me alone. But did you know that negativity can also be ingrained in you, that it goes unnoticed? That's because negativity sometimes wears disguise called reality. It's easy to rationalize that you're just being realistic and daring to act or dream and to believe it. People are not being realistic, they're being naive, and so they're in denial with their head stuck in the sand, that they put on their fake smiles in the face of difficulty and so forth. But they are really happy idiots, or is there something to their positivity? Consider this. Since when does being realistic necessarily mean that things go wrong and you have to accept that as truth? That doesn't mean that being realistic is automatically negative, but when you view the world from a negative standpoint, you simply can't help but be negative. If your version of reality is negative. If your version of reality is negative, you are conditioned to believe that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Whatever you can go right will probably go wrong too. You unconsciously held beliefs make you into a negative person without you being aware of it. So if this negativity is so ingrained in you, you don't notice it. How do you determine whether you're stuck in a cloud of negative energy that is attracting the wrong people, wrong situations, or wrong feelings? And how can you be sure that you're not perpetuating the negativity? And here's a quick quiz to gauge the level of negativity within you. Do you complain all the time or just sometimes? Do you often discuss what's wrong in the world more than what's right? Do you criticize all the time or with just certain people? Do you blame? Do you believe that you have no control over most of your results? Do you feel like a victim? Do you talk about people doing things to you? Are you grateful for what it is or grateful when the things finally start going right for you? Do you feel like things are happening to you, or do you feel like they are happening through you? Okay, so, and then here's ways to clear the energy. One, you have to take ownership. When you think everything is someone else's fault, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. 2, cancel negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts. This takes practice, dedication, and making a decision to see the world through the eyes of what can go right instead of what can go wrong. And 3, use the love or above spiritual toolkit to clear the energy and bring more light and love into your life. Visualize the positive instead of getting sucked into the negativity. Overcome past conditions. Think intuitively from the soul instead of from reality. Create a new desired reality in your imagination and manifest it in the outer world. Okay, very good article. I'm going to leave that for you to check out. But it's so important, you know, we go through this daily basis, especially as we go through the process that we're in, and so much negativity is out there. If we don't find a way to deal with it and clear it, well, we're the ones who ultimately suffer from it. Okay, finally, that brings us to our meditation for today. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. All right, I want you to imagine that you're in a large pool. A large pool. And all the water's all around you. You're able to breathe under the water and move about. And as we move about in this large pool of energy, we realize that all of this energy that we're moving in is affected by everybody that's within this pool of energy. And that includes everybody upon the earth at this time. So we imagine and visualize all of this energy all over the place. And as we do this, we change our location from being in a pool to being on the earth, walking the path of life. And instead of the water of the pool being around us, we have this energy, very fluid-like all around us. We can't see it. But within this energy field around us are all of the same energies that are being put into the world by everybody. And amongst these energies, we see positive energies with their positive energetic colors, and we see negative energies with their dark, brooding colors. And we learn to tell the difference between these energies. We learn to move towards the energies that are positive and to move away from the energies that are negative. We learn to send out more positive, and we learn to clear negative. And as we move through the world, sending out positive and clearing the negative, we find that the world becomes much clearer. We find that each and every one of us has the potential to change ourselves and thereby changing the entire world. And we realize that each and every one of us is a part of this living, breathing experiment of life. And that every day we have an opportunity to contribute energetically to what is taking place. Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, thank you for shining your light in our lives Thank you for allowing your essence of love and positivity to flow through us, to flow through all things. We are blessed that your Christ light shines bright in each and every one of us, and that every moment we have an opportunity to allow that light to shine into the world. We pray that this day we are able to remove the distractions and the negativity in order to allow this light to shine bright, that we might be examples of positivity in this world of challenges that we are now dealing with. So let's imagine ourselves continuing to walk along that path. Let the subconscious mind continue moving along, sending out love and positivity, and just seeing the world change and believing the world changes as we send these positive vibes into it. And let's imagine just sending positivity to ourselves and releasing all of the negativity that we've collected or gathered, knowingly or unknowingly. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey, sending out love, positivity, and let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale, and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That is the show for today. It's the end of the week, so I will be back next week. Be engaged in the process a bit more. I just needed to take some time off to observe. So easy to get caught up, in what's going on a daily basis. But I think it's important that we all take moments and time to sit back and observe what is going on, so that we can engage in a way that is effective, not only for ourselves, but for everybody else involved. We're all in this together, my friends. We just need to see the good in all things. We need to understand the process and the concept of God that is expanding in the world as we release and move away from the negativity towards this positive divine that is really who we are. So that's it. I'm going to quit rambling for the day, and you go out and have yourselves a great weekend. I'll be back next week. Enjoy the beginning of this month of December. Till then, I love you. Keep loving each other, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.